Immortality. Soul. Everything what God has created is spiritual power and as such imperishable. Nevertheless, the visible creations are subject to a permanent change. They therefore do not pass away completely, but only change in themselves, and even when it is no longer visible, it still does not cease to be, because God only dissolves matter temporarily, until the spiritual again needs a new outer form in it. This change now also contributes to it that the spiritual develops itself further, that it therefore never remains in the same stage, but that it reaches an always higher degree of maturity, so long until it can enter its last embodiment as man. Also man is so to speak transient, however again only the outer form, while the soul, the spiritual in man, also outlasts the last outer form and enters eternity as bodiless being. This spiritual, the soul, is not visible to man on earth, and still it is the actual being, which only needs the bodily cover for the purpose of the last maturing on earth. But after the death of the body the soul continues its life without any cover and therefore also only visible to the spiritual beings, which are completely independent of earth and all earthly substance. What God has created remains in existence forever, but the form of existence, the state of that what was created through God's will, can be very different. Accordingly also more or less visible, although it cannot pass away forever. Man with his bodily eyes is only able to see everything created in that stage where it has material covers, because only such are visible to the bodily eye, as it can only see the spiritual in the outer form in a high degree of maturity. And that is why also the imperishability of the human soul is mostly doubted, because man only wants to believe what he sees and what he can prove. But with some thought he wins the knowledge that everything has gone out from God and therefore cannot be transient, although it loses its earthly cover. Only when he has recognized the spiritual in himself, when he leads a spiritual life next to his earthly, outer life, he considers matter as a cover necessary for development, which is only means to an end for the spiritual. Then he also knows that there is no end for the spiritual, but that the outer cover is only of limited time duration and remains in existence as long as it is divine will, which then releases the spiritual for a life outside of earth, outside of matter, which never ever ends, but lasts forever. Therefore earth life can only be seen as a transition station where the spiritual, the soul, has to overcome its last outer form so that it then can enter a sphere completely without cover where its actual life starts. In freedom and in the awareness of its power, which it lacked on earth as long as it had not yet reached the necessary maturity. Where it is aware that it lives eternally, that it can never ever pass away because what is out of God is everlasting. Amen.